Now, before I start talking about Jack and Lily, for those of you who are following the Phoebe Bishop case, I have released another video on that this morning. There are more updates on her case with regards to her wonderful housemates and also with regards to evidence. If you have not come across Phoebe's case, Phoebe Bishop is a 17-year-old from Bundaberg in Queensland, Australia, who's been missing since May 15th. Her flatmates claim to have dropped her off in the vicinity of Bundaberg Airport. She was meant to be flying to visit a boyfriend over on the other side of the country in Western Australia. She's been missing since that time. CCTV footage shows that her flatmates did not drop her off at the airport. There is some CCTV footage showing that the vehicle was in the area, but the search is basically now focused on a national park area which is about an hour and a quarter away from the Bundaberg Airport. So if you've not come across this case, it's worth checking out. I now have a Phoebe Bishop playlist on my channel if you wanted to bring yourself up to speed with this case. Okay, well, what we're actually here for is to talk about Jack and Lily Sullivan. So let's get on to talking about that. There is now a missing poster that is being put out there in the hopes that people might come forward and know something. But at the same time, there's also a lot of rumours out there. There's a lot of misinformation being spread by people either sharing something that they saw on Facebook and thinking that, well, Facebook is a valid source, or misinterpreting something, getting half a story perhaps. So in this video, I'm going to go right back to the beginning and I'm going to go through some of the really key bits of dispatch audio. Now, in terms of the dispatch audio, I have grabbed this audio from Plunder True Crime, and I will provide links in the description section of my video so that you can go across to her channel and check out her content on Jack and Lily, and also have a listen to the dispatch calls that she's got. She's got the most complete collection of dispatch audio, so if you are wanting to just listen to it without someone like myself just yabbering away in between bits and pieces, that's where you can go. Because this is Paula's audio, Plunder's audio, you will hear her audio watermark in the background on occasion, the Plunder True Crime audio watermark. And I recognise that at times this can be a little bit distracting, but unfortunately there are quite a few grifters on YouTube who will steal other people's content without giving them credit. And this has been happening way too much lately for Plunder True Crime. So she's now adding a watermark to her audio, which is more than fair. Now, just to offer some clarity on that, because I know when I've discussed this before, I had people saying, well, you can't put a watermark on things that are free. Or other people saying, well, she couldn't have paid for it because you can't do a FOIA request for an ongoing case. This is not something that has been gotten via FOIA. This has been gotten via, I believe it's Broadcastify, which is an online source where you can listen in real time to dispatch audio from any number of sources. If you pay a subscription, which is what Plunder has done, then you can also go back and listen to archived audio, which is what she did for this case. Hence the reason why this is watermarked, because she does actually pay a subscription to get dispatch audio to be able to go back and listen to archived audio. I have sourced my own audio, but it's not as complete as Plunder's, so I will not be releasing it publicly for starters. And in terms of this video, I just used all Paula's audio because that way I knew that I wasn't missing anything. There were a few things that I didn't have in my own version of the audio. So I just thought, well, in the interests of continuity, making sure that I get everything and making sure I have it in order, I decided just to go straight to Paula instead. So I've split up the audio into a number of categories. I should mention first, I haven't used all the audio. So if you are wanting to listen to all the audio, then you'll need to go and listen to it over on Plunder True Crime. I have just used specific excerpts that are relevant to what I want to talk about today. So I've split the audio into sections. We have case details, which is basically, information about the case, when they were first reported, all that sort of stuff. Then the drone search, because I think there's some important information there that we need to discuss with regards to the drones. Evidence that has been discovered, or potential evidence. And heat sources that were investigated by the drones and the search teams, because there's been a lot of misinformation put out with regards to them especially. Or, in the case of some people, partial information, which I suspect was released in that way in order to mislead their viewers. So, if you are after misinformation, if you are after rumours, this is not the channel for you. So on that note, let's jump in and first of all listen to the dispatch audio, which gives us some of the details regarding the case.
Foster here. Just speaking with Glenn, are you able to authorize and start getting some search teams going to the Gairloch location while we try and locate a GSAR commander?
So the first mention we have is at 10:44. The information we've been given was that the children were reported missing at 10 a.m. on the 2nd of May. So either there was a big delay between the children being reported missing and the search being called, or the information with regards to when the children were reported missing has been given to us wrong. I guess it's also possible that with the children having been reported missing, that officers probably attended the property first to talk to the parents and just rule out that the children weren't hiding in the house or something, and then at that point they called in the search. I just want to point out here that while a 45-minute delay may not sound like much, but given that at that point in time they didn't know if the children had wandered off or if the children had been abducted, then, time is of the essence. Had it been, and we know they've said it wasn't an abduction, had it been an abduction, the first 3 hours are utterly, utterly crucial. And given that the parents were saying that the last time they saw them was 8 a.m, by 11 a.m., that first 3 hours was already gone. As for if the children had wandered off into the woods, yes, you have a 4-year-old who wouldn't travel very far, but even still, in 3 hours by 11 o'clock, they still could have covered some distance. They could have got themselves into serious trouble. Anything could have happened. So I don't know if it's normal for it to take that long to call a search. I would think, best practice would be to perhaps have drone operators and helicopters on standby, perhaps. Not my area of expertise, but we just hear so often when we have these missing children cases and authorities are a little bit slow to act.
In the bedroom, we called this morning and they haven't been seen since then. I need to get a good statement and figure stuff out.
So it's always important to look at the first bit of information that's been given out. And here, the information is that they were in their bedroom at 8 a.m. and haven't been seen since. Whereas we have the mother saying that she'd heard them, I think, in the room next door playing, and then that they had headed out the sliding door. And we have the stepfather claiming that Lily had kept poking her head in the door. So now we're having just quite basic information. Last seen in their bedroom. Now they've clearly gone and got a detailed statement from both parents, as they just mentioned there. So that will be crucial in terms of they will compare that with what parents have said in news interviews and also what parents say later in interviews with law enforcement. And I already need to correct myself. The first report was 10:44. I was looking at a different thing, meaning that it had been almost 3 hours before the search was called. So, yes, the report was made at 10 a.m. that the children were missing, meaning that they appear to have been missing, if we go by what the parents are saying. They appear to have been missing for 2 hours before the parents actually reported them missing, which of course also doesn't fit with their stories because we have the mother saying, well, I reported them missing as soon as I realised they were gone. So did she lay in bed for 2 hours with a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old just running loose around the house and an 18-month-old baby who would have needed attention?
Can I get an idea of what we're looking at, where we're looking?
So the family is convinced that these children didn't cross the road from their residence. Of course, we're skeptical that we know how these searches go, but it's been a substantial amount of time. So we're looking at, originally it's a 6 kilometre, but now we're looking further out.
So we're being told here that the family is convinced that the children didn't cross the road. This is like as convinced as they are that the children silently opened the sliding door and snuck out into the yard and played out in the yard unobserved before vanishing, even though neither the mother nor the stepfather were actually anywhere to witness those things happening. To me, it seems somewhat reminiscent of Don Wells saying Summer wouldn't possibly go all the way down to the road near the bottom of the property. And yet there was certainly something going on around that odd shed at the bottom of the property and around the creek bed at the bottom of the property. and that seems to be the location where they sent their boys immediately. Your children are missing. If you are that concerned that they have wandered off, you're not going to say, oh, we're convinced they didn't cross the road. You'd want to rule that out. You wouldn't want to think down the track when the children haven't been found. If only we'd have sent them to search that way as well. Of course, given the inconsistencies in the stories of both parents and given the lies, I would be very, very interested in what is in the direction that you head if you go over the road. Now, one thing that's really interesting here is that you hear them specifically say on the dispatch that given it's been a substantial time, they were originally looking at a distance of 6 kilometres, but now they believe it could be further out. Why is this interesting? Because the information that was put out by law enforcement was that they were searching in a 5 kilometre radius. So it seems like while they were focusing in close to the home, in actual fact, the search went out much further than what the public was told, because it looks like they've gone out beyond a 6 kilometre radius.
Copy, and just for everyone's awareness, based on the profile, the children could have traveled at least 6 kilometers, so keep that in mind.
Sergeant Young, for your awareness, their media release has been put out in a non-intrusive alert has been sent out to Pictou County.
So, another thing that's been put out there quite a bit has been people claiming that these alerts didn't go out till the next day or till the afternoon or till really, really late. But you can hear here that he's saying, and according to time, this time comes from Paula, 11:23 a.m. So this is almost an hour and a half after the kids were reported missing, but it's still in the morning when a media alert was put out and a non-intrusive alert was put out to Pictou County. So no, there wasn't an Amber Alert because they couldn't fulfill any of the criteria for an Amber Alert. They couldn't identify a vehicle, they couldn't identify a suspect, anything like that. So instead they put out a non-intrusive alert to Pictou County. Now, don't forget that at this point in time, they still believed that the children had wandered off into the woods. Now, I'm just going to say that while it is considerably earlier than what many people are alleging in terms of when a alert went out, it is still almost it's a 40-minute delay from when they first started calling in search teams. It's outside of that crucial 3-hour window, and by 11:23, those kids have not been seen apparently since 8 o'clock. They could be anywhere. Now, obviously, we know that we've been told there was no abduction. Seems pretty clear that they did not wander into the woods. But either way, at this point in time, at this point in the investigation, in the search, they didn't know this. So, to me, it seems that they were a bit slow getting these alerts out, and my thoughts are that these sort of alerts should go out at the same time that searches are being called in. Don't wait another 40 minutes just to make sure. You can always put out a retraction, But 40 minutes is a long time when it comes to missing children.
Briefing for the father now, are you sure?
Audio.
Okay, admittedly that one was a little bit hard to hear, but that was a question over the radio asking if there was a briefing for the father, as in the stepfather. Something that Paula pointed out on her channel was that there are a lot of instances on the dispatch when you can hear that Daniel has gone to ask for a debrief, basically. So that was day 5 on May the 6th, that he had once again gone and asked for a debrief. You can see that one of two ways. Either that he is incredibly concerned for the welfare of the children and wants to be kept up with the details of the search, or he's involved with the disappearance of the children and he wants to be kept abreast with what law enforcement know. I'm now going to move on to some audio that is still dispatch audio, of course, which relates to the drones and the drone search, because I think there is some rather important information here that is worth making note of.
805, go ahead.
Yeah, we okay to cross the highway here and work the wooded area behind the residence?
10-4, I'm actually coming down for battery swap right now.
Okay, cover that. Just let us know when you want to come back airborne.
So this is still day 1 of the search. Now these drones are all fitted with FLIR cameras, which are basically your forward-looking infrared cameras. They are able to find heat sources, and you'll hear quite a lot of discussion regarding heat sources later on in this video. But it is something really, really important these days. It does help with searches. Now, obviously, these FLIR cameras do not sense heat that is under the ground. It is surface level heat. And what you get is the heat will show different intensities depending on the temperature. It's not a replacement for ground crews, but it certainly makes a difference, and there have certainly been plenty of people found thanks to this FLIR technology. So here they are searching the wooded area behind the house, which is of course quite dense. The advantage that these drones have over people on the ground is that they can basically cover areas that people can't actually get to. The other advantage they have is that all the footage they take is recorded, so that not only are they looking as they fly and also checking out heat sources, but they also then have the ability to review all that footage after the flight.
There is a field, kind of an open area behind the residence there. I'll just stay west of that, so I won't come any closer to the backyard for that.
Just let me know if you need to move in closer, I'll get out of the way.
Yeah, no, you guys do your thing, and we're just going to work all these heavily wooded areas out here where you guys can't reach.
So as you can hear, even before they had helicopters there, they had multiple drones up. That's what the discussion was here. This one drone operator saying that he was going to stay west of the field behind the house so as not to basically get in the flight path of the other drone, because in searches like this they all have to be aware of each other's flight path. They also have to be aware of the flight path of helicopters, so you know none of them can cross paths basically. So we have one drone operator saying here that he was going to remain west of the field, and we also have, as I mentioned, whether it was the same drone operator or a different one, mentioning that they are covering the really heavily wooded areas that were pretty much inaccessible to ground crew.
Perfect. You want to confirm you're aware you got another RPAS operator heading your way from Bible Hill?
Do we know if there's a drone up in the air at all or not?
Negative on the drones. It sounds like there's 4 drones on the ground,
But none of the drones are in the air at the moment, and they're all monitoring Neutral 8-6 as well, and broadcasting their intentions when they're ready.
So you have day 1, you have another drone operator on the way, and you have 4 drones on site. Now at that particular time they roll down. Obviously they can only fly so long before they have to change the batteries out. So presumably they were changing batteries out with those 4 drones. But when you consider the amount of area that you can cover with one drone, they had 4 drones up with FLIR technology. And they found no sign of the children. So it shows how extensive the search was from day 1.
Well, that's great. Thank you.
You good if I take off from the house and go north up to the lake, just to the north of the residence here? Just going to do a low fly around the coast there. That's the Lansdowne Lake, just west of Garlock Road.
Confirm you want to check the lake kind of northwest of the residence?
Yeah, 10-4.
Okay, so you're going to do that Lansdowne Lake, is it?
Yeah, I just guys have already had a look there.
So not only did they have divers in that lake, they had searchers at that lake straight up before anyone else was checking that lake out. They had a drone up there doing a low fly around the whole coast area of that lake, of Lansdowne Lake. So that was thoroughly searched. However, there is something that comes up with that, which I'll discuss later on.
Yeah, are you still in the air?
Yeah, 10-4.
Okay, are we okay to drop down on the, looks like the east side of the road there? There's a gully system there. We just want to get down, have do some low passes there. Or are you doing orbits and crossing the road as well?
Yeah, I can stay to the. I can stay out of your area there. I'm at 270. How low are you looking to go? I can take it down too if you need.
So just for deconfliction, I'll just stay on the east side of the road. If you're going to stay on the west side of the road and work the backyards and over top of the residence. If you're not going to cross the road, we'll just drop down. There's a gully on the east side. We want to just kind of cruise the forest there.
Yeah, we can do that.
So obviously they would have had ground crews into that gully area as well, but it just shows you how thoroughly the drone crews covered the area at the beginning of the search. You have one drone operator covering the whole gully system on the east side of the road. You have another one on the west side of the road going back over the residence and the woods behind the residence and that whole area. So the area was thoroughly covered with drones even before search crews really got a chance to do much.
Okay, this is the Casera RPAS team. The fire department was coming in with their drone team. We are set up by the Nova Scotia Public Safety's repeater. So my suggestion is that they could come up here, join us, look at the map, divide up our space so that the drones are not flying the same area.
So that's day 2 of the search, when they're also bringing in drone crews from the fire department. Now, obviously, if the children were no longer alive and somewhere out there, then trying to find a heat source would not have been quite a successful mission, but they still have, good quality, high definition cameras on those drones. So they would have been searching, using the cameras and also reviewing footage afterwards. But I think we can see just how many drone crews they had there. It wasn't just one drone searching and one helicopter up above. And I believe from listening to the dispatch that they had at least 2 helicopters up at one point in time. But we're looking at initial 4 drones on day 1, and then however many drones were brought in by the fire department on the following day. So quite a lot of drones there covering quite a lot of area, with also a lot of ground crew.
Make a suggestion. Casera has their own RPAS units. I think there's one in Truro that has the pilot, the observer, and they hook up a computer to run AI for grid searches in like specific colors. We consider that.
Yep.
Now, I suspect this is something that has been overlooked by quite a few people. They're talking about a drone crew coming in with a team who operate this drone, a team of 3, and they do grid searches, and they have software on that drone which basically allows it to pick up or look for particular colours. That is essentially what he's saying there. So this is something that Texas EquiSearch use, and it is something that has proven successful in searches before. Basically, it is a program that I believe was written for Texas EquiSearch, and basically when you're doing a search, it's an AI powered program, and you essentially say, okay, I want you to find pink objects, and the software will basically highlight any pink objects that are picked up by the drone. So this is significant. This is hugely significant. They've said that, he's said, oh, look, we can get this drone, and the commander has said yes. So they had this drone in to basically help search, meaning that they could have programmed this drone to look for pink, which is what Lily was supposed to be wearing. They could have programmed it to also look for blue, which of course is the dinosaur boots that Jack was wearing. In terms of the brown, I don't think that would have been a practical thing unless they had the exact colour brown. I'm not sure if that would have been overly viable, but certainly with the claims that Lily was wearing pink and the claims that Jack was wearing his dinosaur boots, which were blue, that would have been 2 colours that could have been programmed into the AI system for that drone to basically keep an eye out for. So, in terms of drone searches, it was extensive. And like I've said, it's not a replacement for ground crews, but it is a tool for helping ground crews, and they can cover a much larger area much faster than ground crews. Now, I didn't use this particular clip, but on the audio on day 1, one of the drone operators later on in the day basically says that they had to ground their drones because of the weather. It was raining and there was too much precipitation on their drones, so that they couldn't really see anything that was going on. But that just tells you that they had those drones up all day. If those kids were out there and they were on the move anywhere, those drones would have picked them up. And then, of course, on day 2, with the drone coming in with the AI capabilities, had those children been anywhere out in the open, in the area that that drone was searching, it would have picked up on the colour of their clothing or the colour of their shoes. Now, for now, I'm going to move on from the drones. I am going to come back and discuss the heat sources that were discovered on the first day. Obviously discovered by the drones, but I have put them into a separate category. First, I want to discuss the evidence or potential evidence that was found by ground crews on the first day, because these are things that people have, once again, listened to dispatch audio, got half a story, or just decided that it sounded like a good story and ran with it without actually applying any logic, common sense, critical thinking, or in some instances without listening to the full section of the dispatch audio. So I'm going to go through the various bits of evidence that were discussed on dispatch footage for the first couple of days.
That's a campground. That's a KOA. It's across the road, and the people down there are aware. Keep an eye out. There's also a trail cam that was found on that road for the staging area. Just trying to make contact with the owner there now to see if he had any footage.
So one of the many stories that first came out was people speculating that because there was a campground over the road, that maybe someone had been at that campground and had abducted the children. Now, here we have the audio of them saying that they went to the campground over the road, spoke to the people who were camping there, made them aware of the situation. Why is that significant in terms of what I was just saying then? Well, had there been anyone at the campground who had left in the days prior to that, or even the day that the children went missing, then, of course, the Mounties would have found out. They wouldn't have just gone over and been like, hey, how you going? We're looking for a bunch of kids, or a couple of kids. They would have got details of the people who were at that campground, as well as notifying them that these children were missing. So you can tick that campground off in terms of this notion that, oh, what if it was someone from the campground? If it was, they would have found out about that pretty damn quick, and we would have been hearing about an abduction. So from what they're saying there, we can read between the lines and recognise the fact that they have essentially canvassed the campground as well. Now, I'm not sure if they're referring to the staging area as being in that same spot where the campground is. And if you can remember where the staging area was, just drop a note down below. But they're saying that on the road, on the way to the staging area, they had identified a trail camera, and they were making contact with the owner of the trail camera in order to see if they could get footage. Now, that's only one that we've heard of in this dispatch. We know that as well as using this regular dispatch line, they also had secure radio contact. They had a truck coming in with, the technology so that they could use their private lines, essentially, to communicate. So what we're getting here on dispatch isn't everything that was occurring. So you can be pretty certain that anywhere that they spotted trail cameras, they would have contacted the owners of the trail cameras to get footage. Now, I know that it took them a while to contact some owners of trail cam footage. They were a little bit further out, and I am a little bit baffled by that. But certainly in the immediate area of the house, they definitely would have identified any trail cameras that were in the area and made contact with owners of those trail cameras.
Do we know if
London,
any of the kids had
true
like
crime
stickers on their
audio.
backpacks? We found a little shiny star sticker over here by the bridge. Over.
Stand by. That's on my quick answer. Stickers for strawberries. You say you found a star?
Yeah, it's like a holographic little star over. We're on a wooden bridge over.
So one of the most absurd theories I heard from someone was claims that they found a sticker that was in the shape of a star, and that must have come off Lily's boots, because she has stars on her gumboots. Yes, you can see stars on the images of her gumboots, but they would be rubber stars that would be permanently affixed to the gumboots. They would basically be fused to the rest of the rubber on the gumboots. So, no, the star would not have come from Lily's gumboots. Now, we know that we have a bus run that goes along that road. So, we don't know how long that sticker had been there for. And for all we know, that sticker could have come off any child's bag. Now, yep, children, when given stickers at school, they may put them on their clothes. They may put them on their bags. Some children prefer to put them on the school bags because they last longer. If they put them on their clothes, they go home, their clothes get washed, and the sticker is gone. So you do have some children, and certainly around Lily's age, who would want to preserve their beloved sticker that they'd earned and would put it on their bags. So it is possible that it has come off a school backpack. Maybe it was on Lily's backpack. But if it was, I'm going to say with utmost confidence that Lily wasn't carrying that backpack at the time if it came off, or if she was, it would have been the day that they came home from school. But clearly it wasn't in the vicinity of their house. So it would depend on the location of the wooden bridge as to the likelihood of where that sticker came from. But at the end of the day, it's hardly a blazing piece of evidence, even if by some chance it did happen to come off a school bag or come off Lily's bag. But there was no mention of there being any stickers on that bag. It was a bag with strawberry designs on it, apparently.
We'd walk up the gas pipeline trail there, and there's definitely
London, true
some
crime
child-sized
audio.
boot prints in the mud here that are still visible. They're a bit eroded from the heavy rain, but they're still visible. So,
Again, maybe it's some sort of evidence, but they make it quite clear over the audio that they actually can't say when those boot prints occurred because they were so deteriorated because of the rain. They were degraded because of the rain. So there were some child-sized boot prints still visible. No idea when they got there. So they basically photographed them for evidence, and then they checked the area thoroughly. And we know this was discussed on the news. They checked the area thoroughly and there were no other prints found. So basically those boot prints were of little to no significance. They didn't lead anywhere. They didn't even know if those boot prints could actually fit in with the timeline. They could have occurred any time. And yes, I realise there are creators out there who will probably still push the boot print theory, because I think we still hear the footprint theory from the Summer Wells case. I know there were some content creators who latched onto that even though it was one single footprint. But at the end of the day, it's really not hugely significant given that you can't even put a timeline to when they occurred.
This is Colchester Base calling the K-9 unit tasked to investigate the blanket. Do you copy?
Audio.
Over.
This is Bravo 3. I was with Kilo 2 like 3 seconds ago. He went towards the main road there. We're done at that site. The dog didn't get a track or anything like that. Bravo 3 sees the blanket.
So yes, the blanket is another thing that creators have been having a field day with, claiming that they found a blanket belonging to one of the children. No, there is your source right there. This is the dispatch audio. Yes, they found a blanket. They had the dogs check it out and the dog did not alert to the blanket. The blanket has no connection with the case.
Cruiser 2, this is Search Command. Go ahead. Over.
We're up just past our location. A lady dropped by and said she found a pink shirt and a blue shirt on the side of the road. Do you want coordinates so that you can see if you already have them from your team? Don't see flag and tape near it, but I can give you the coordinates and I'll take a picture for you.
Kilo 2 from Gagno. Yeah, go ahead. Those pieces of cloth, that's what you and I went and with the dog yesterday there when the family brought us up there.
Okay, are you there with the Katerra guys right now? I just want to let them know that we cleared that area already. We're good.
Yeah, I'm here with them, and we should probably just flag it. I don't have any flagging tape or anything.
So yet another thing that the grifters had a field day with, saying that they found pink clothing and blue clothing. So they have made it pretty clear here. So this is from day 2 with the dispatch. It is probably discussed somewhere in the dispatch. I didn't actually grab that. But basically you have them saying that a woman had contacted them, gave them a location of a pink shirt and a blue shirt that she had spotted. And it turns out that they were pieces of cloth which had been cleared the day before with the dogs, but that they hadn't actually tagged the area. So what normally would occur with evidence like that being found, or non-evidence, is that they would tag it with, you see those like fluoro pink ribbons from trees, which basically is I was here, I've got this, you don't need to report it in again. Somehow there was a bit of a breakdown in what was happening there and it did not occur. Now, I've seen a few creators who have been talking about the heat sources that they found, like it was a huge discovery and maybe they discovered the children and they found the heat sources, but they didn't collect the children or something like that. I don't know how people think that, you know, a heat source that turns out to be a black swan is significant. So I'm going to go through the dispatch where they discuss a few heat sources that were discovered. There is one that I do find interesting and I will discuss a little bit further. But again, I think it is not helpful when people get themselves overly excited about information from the dispatch when they haven't listened right through and perhaps missed the after comments, or when it's been pretty clear that the things that have been discussed are not overly important. Now, in terms of this FLIR technology, just a few things that you need to understand. They do pick up heat sources, and they're actually more effective at night time. The reason for that being is that there are various things that absorb heat in the sunlight and therefore show up as a heat source. And you will hear, as they are discussing these heat sources here, that appears to be the case with at least 2 of these heat sources that are identified. Now, I think I also mentioned earlier in this video that the heat sources will glow in different, like with different intensity depending on the actual temperature. And I'm actually thinking from listening to the audio of this that these drones may be able to, based on the colour that they are getting, give the temperature of the heat source as well, because I think that's what I may have heard. Anyway, I'll add any additional information if needed as we go along. I do plan on also doing a separate video where I will discuss the FLIR technology with the drones and the helicopters. But for this video, the focus here is on the dispatch audio. So let's have a listen to what was said with regards to the heat sources that were identified by the drones.
But your team's looking at, there's 2 figurines of swans sitting there, painted black, and they must have picked up heat.
So basically what they were doing here during the search was, where the drone picked up a heat source, they were then sending ground crew to investigate that source. In this instance, they did so and discovered that they were pink swans or something that had been painted black and were therefore obviously absorbing heat from the sun and giving out heat. They later moved them because I think they were picked up again by another drone, so they moved them out onto the lawn so they could be clearly visible and they wouldn't keep flying over them and thinking they were a heat source to be checked out.
Yeah, I'd like to give you a coordinate. We found something hot that was moving. We can't pick it up again. Probably an animal, but we want to call it in.
Clearly it was an animal because they're talking about a single heat source, and of course, had it been children, they would have checked it out pretty damn quick and would have located them. The thing is with the drones that if they locate a heat source, they can actually keep the drones above the heat source and send crews in.
Just for context, it's 2 heat signatures close together by a road. Coordinate is 45.4276661 by negative 62.82700. Affirmative, that's a good copy. The point should have you right by a road, or looks like just off Station Road. Yeah, cancel the last coordinates we gave you. We investigated and determined it was 2 oil drums. We're returning to base.
Now, I've heard some creators who have listened to half that audio and got themselves all excited because the dispatch mentioned 2 heat sources side by side. No, it was oil drums. Do you really think that were they able to locate 2 heat sources by the side of the road with a drone that they would not have sent ground crews to check it out, and had it been the children, they would have found them? Now, in terms of why those drums gave off heat sources, obviously, first of all, they're metal. Also, being oil drums, even if they had just residual amounts of oil inside, that is going to heat up in the sun and therefore be picked up as a heat signal by the drones. Now, I just want to make an important observation here that people may not be aware of. I did kind of touch on it briefly before, but in terms of the heat signals that the drones pick up, the operators can tell from the colour of the heat signal, essentially, when they are looking at body heat. So the fact that they are investigating things like black lawn ornaments and oil drums says to me that already at this point in the investigation, they were highly suspicious of the information that they had been given and weren't necessarily looking just for living children. As morbid as it sounds, it does take several hours for the body to chill to ambient temperature. With a larger person, you're looking at around 12 hours. With children this size, it's going to take less time for the bodies to chill to ambient temperature. As triggering as it is to say that, I think it is something that we need to acknowledge, because I think we can tell from this that the drone operators aren't just working on the assumption that these children have simply wandered off.
Anyway, okay, thank you.
Halifax Command, copy Elma drone team. I got a point of interest for you. 2 heat signatures by the water source. Read you off coordinates.
Right, go ahead. Was that just a point of interest, or what do you see?
I've got 2 heat signatures. One appears like it could be small object sitting. Just 2 heat signatures sitting close together near the water.
Roger. Now we'll have somebody take a look. Roger, like I say, the place we're trying to say is right at the end of the road. You know, where we park their vehicles. Just keep going down the road right to the end there.
Yeah, just going to go down the long driveway here. That's actually where the RPAS is standing, so that's the location with the coordinates, I think.
Can you go back to that spot that you're seeing the 2 heat sources there and check it over again there, please?
10-4. We will return to those locations.
All right, the A1 drone there. The team are finding a duck there in the water.
We are directly overhead. Your most west member should be looking at the 2 heat signatures, whatever it is. Directly to your right, you just walk past it. Yeah, ground crew, Elma drone team, I am directly overhead of the heat signature. I'm about as low as I can get safely.
The drone is directly over the team. So what are you seeing? Just look at the heat signature from the drone?
Affirmative. It is directly between the tree and the water. You have a member within 5 feet of it. Currently walking away from it. Turn around 180 and walk forward. Continue forward. Bank left. You're directly over both heat sources. I'm going to assume it's nothing.
So, it was certainly something rather curious, this finding a heat source, and they sent ground crew to check it out, and basically they're saying one of your crew is standing directly over the top of this heat source, and they had mentioned that it was 2 heat sources side by side, and they're saying, well, it must be nothing, because clearly if you're standing directly over the top of it and you're still seeing nothing, it must be nothing. So, you know, it could be as simple as that it's a rock that person is standing over the top of. When I first heard this, I had thought, oh, I wonder if they can sense heat sources under the ground, but no, they cannot sense heat sources under the ground. So no, it could not be a case of remains being buried in that location, and you would think also that were that the case, they would notice the disturbed ground. But it was certainly interesting, them basically saying, well, you're standing directly on the heat source. It could simply be a case of, like I said, a rock on the ground, a few rocks on the ground. It could be that there was a break in just the right spot in the trees for sunlight to hit that patch of ground and warm that patch of ground. You also had them mentioning that there was a duck in the water nearby. So there's also a really good chance that maybe that duck was sitting just there, sunning itself before heading into the water, having heard the ground crews turning up. That said, the next bit of audio that kind of goes hand in hand with this is kind of interesting. It is probably nothing, and I'm going to presume that it's nothing, given that we are now, 3 weeks in and the children haven't been found. But it's certainly interesting, and it certainly gave me pause and made me stop and ask a few questions.
The team says they're not seeing anything.
10-4, thank you.
G-Star Command, G6K9, we just brought the dog down for a quick recce of the area where those heat signatures were. He's indicating that we're at on the river. We're just wondering if we're in the same area that was just searched.
Barking enough, I couldn't quite make up that. I don't think we got a team in there anymore.
G-Star Command, Team 119. G-Star K9, just, the dog's indicating where we're at on the river here, and we're just curious if this is the same area that we just had with the heat signature. Because if he's picking up on the team that was just here, then that would make sense. Over.
Now, obviously, I can't tell you if that is a tracking dog or a cadaver dog. I'm going to presume that given that it was day one, it was a tracking dog. But basically, that dog alerted. And the dog handler is asking if that is the same location at the lake that the heat signature was found. Unfortunately, it seems like whoever is manning the dispatch audio doesn't seem to really grasp what is being asked here. And they're saying that, well, the ground crews left that area now. They're on the road. So I don't hear any answer anywhere in the dispatch with regards to this. Unless they went onto a private channel to discuss it. But it seems like, it certainly appears that the dog has alerted in the location of one of the lakes. Whether it is connected to this heat source that was detected by the drones, or whether it is not connected, it is certainly something that made me question what was going on. We know that they did get divers in to search for the lake area. We know that they checked that area out pretty heavily, and I'm wondering if that is because this dog alerted. This is something that's not been reported by news stations, and I'm not aware of other channels discussing it. That said, I'm being very selective when it comes to what channels I watch. I'm really only watching plunder because there's just too much misinformation being put out. There's too many people jumping on crap from Facebook who are basically putting out misinformation or fake stories. I know today's latest is people claiming that the aunt of, I don't know, Daniel or someone has come out and said all this stuff on Facebook. Well, how do you know for certain that is actually his aunt? You know, there are so many trolls coming out in this case. The fact that you have, like I've said, Joseph Morris covering this case. If you're not familiar with Joseph Morris, He was the one who created the fake audio with the Idaho 4 case. He was the one who created the fake videos with the Gabby Petito case. So I can see him having fake accounts and pretending to be fake individuals. I know also that there is an individual posting on the Jack and Lily page on Facebook who has basically called their Facebook account something like, I don't know, CBY News or something like that, making it sound like they are a legitimate news station, making it sound that what they are sharing is legitimate news, and they even present their information like they are sharing a news story. It is not a news. It is not media. It is just an individual who's given themselves that name basically to convince people to listen to what they are saying. They are not legitimate. So I hope that what I've covered today has maybe cleared a few things up for people, answered a few questions, and put a few rumours to bed. I am definitely curious about the dog alerting in the lake area, particularly given that we had the stepfather claiming that he went running ahead of the helicopters and drones searching, and he ran through waist-deep water. And also him talking about how Lily's bag might now be muddy and dirty, and something about Jack's pull-ups. He might not still be wearing them or something. So I do hope they are still searching in these water areas, and I just hope these children are found soon. So on that note, I'm going to finish up here. If you are following my Madeline Soto footage, I'm going to make a start on looking at the interview with Tyler Wallace, having a deep dive into that. So thanks for listening. If you are new to my channel, please do subscribe. Also, please hit the like button. That gets these videos out into the algorithm. And of course, the more factual information we can get out there in relation to this case, the better. So definitely please hit the like. Let's get people seeing this video. And also please leave a comment below. Thank you, and I will catch you in the next one.
I've been